if you have an individual that's looking at this fire service world as a joke or a game, my game is going to be I want to outperform you. I want to outwork you.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Tailboard Misfits podcast. Got another episode coming to you today. Pretty excited for this one. Been wanting to reach out for quite some time now, and we're going to be talking with Danny B here in a minute. But first, I just want to remind you guys of a few things. October 1st, we'll be going live, myself and Preston Lyons, through TBM on the Firefighter Nation platform. So if you're not following them on Facebook and Instagram, make sure you're following them. And then starting in October, we're going to have some episodes streamed through them. So make sure you're following them, and you can stay up to date with everything else with Firefighter Nation. They're doing a huge relaunch. It's going to be awesome. They got some new faces, new names in the mix, and we're looking real forward to that one. But other than that, let's get to the show. Danny B, what's up, brother? How are you?
What's going on? How's everybody doing?
Man, I'm good. I kind of was sharing with you. I had a rough shift yesterday. I'm on the struggle bus, so it's not often I drink coffee in the afternoon, but I was like, all right, I gotta drink some coffee.
No, understood, man. Understood.
So, for those of you that don't know who Danny B is, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. Plus, I like the sound of Danny B. It just goes together better. We all know that you host a Student of the Game podcast. I would say it's pretty well known across the fire service at this point. Man, you're pushing out some content. You've had some great guests on there. Recently, Chief Scott Thompson, which is awesome. I mean, he's right down the road from me, what I would consider my backyard. So I thought that episode was awesome and actually reached out to you for that. But for those of you, or for those of us that don't know who you are or haven't heard of you, man, just give us a rundown of who you are, where you're at, if you want to share where you work at, just the dynamics of that stuff to aid in our conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely. Originally from New York, so I'm a Yankee. Yes, I know us Yankees are coming down south. Originally from New York, started as a volunteer, Rockland Hook and Ladder, Department 17. Pretty much where I got my feet wet, where I learned what the fire service was about, where I learned what brotherhood was about, where I learned the inception of tire shine on fire apparatus, just all of it. So I started as a volunteer. I had to have community service. I was to graduate. What I thought I was doing was just signing up to do my community service to get my credits. What it ended up eventually being was application for membership, which I mean it was a blessing in disguise. Turned my whole life around. It's not like I was on a bad path or anything like that. It's just my trajectory. I was going to school for film, wanted to go to school for film, and fire service took over, and it was a wrap after that. And then, of course, we had an event called 9/11 that occurred. My dad worked in the city. He had a limo business, and it affected his limo business pretty bad. And so him and my mom, right before I was getting ready to start, I think my second semester of community college, they were like, hey, we're getting ready to move. You can come with us. If not, we understand, you're going to school. And I'm like, when are we leaving? Let's get the hell out of here. I mean, I am a diehard New Yorker, but I do not ever care to go back. New York is a shit show. It's just crazy. So being from just outside of New York City, I can say that it's mind boggling there. I don't see how people can afford it. So other than that, we moved to North Carolina. First thing I had to do, I had to find a volunteer fire department. So I joined up real quick. And then I worked a part-time job I was a paint delivery driver for Sherwin-Williams. And long story kind of short, eventually I started on my days off not working there, actually making income. I would just go hang out at the firehouse. We had part-timers, and I got involved in that. And then one thing led to another where they were like, hey, Moore's was getting ready to hire. You might want to look into if you want to do this full time. I'm like, oh, I could do this full time? Like, hell yeah, let's go. So I signed up, or I applied for the job, and I was fortunate enough to get it. I did apply for a Charlotte fire one time. I didn't make the cut. It's all good. At the time, man, there was like, I don't know, thousands of applicants. And the same for Mooresville, not thousands, but there was a good number back then. But I was able to make the cut there, and that's where the rest is history. And so, yeah, currently I'm going on my 18th year. I am a senior firefighter, which is a relief driver. I recently transferred over to a ladder company about a year and a half ago, Absolutely love it. I've been on the engine my whole life, but and I always say this: there's no shade. Every every discipline on the fireground matters, but to me, the art of throwing ladders, of true truck work, search, ventilation, that's an art form. It's a different type of body mechanic. You're going to work different parts of your body you never really thought of. And so I have thoroughly fell in love with the truck life, if you want to call it. We're a Quint. We do have hose, we have water on our truck, but just the discipline of truck work. And yeah, here I am today. So pretty much.
Yeah, man. I know a lot of the true truckies out there probably just gasped when you said
I
you're,
know they
you're a
probably
Quint.
did.
It's
Yep.
okay. I run a Quint too. That's what I was on yesterday, and I reference this a lot. But for the most part, like I hate being repetitive, but this is our first time talking, so I want you to have a context of where I'm coming from as well. But I work at a triple company house. We do run our own EMS, and so I rotate from the truck to the engine to the ambulance, and so forth. And I agree. I was brand new to the truck game about 8 months ago or so now, and it was a completely. I would have considered myself pretty squared away on the engine, and then getting to the truck, it was like, oh, okay, a little exposed now. I got some work to do. So I agree with everything that you're saying. I do like the truck side of it. I believe that I'm built a little bit better for the engine, and I think that's where where my passion lies at. But I still respect truck work. I liked it. I've cut a hole before. It was nice. I noticed I said just one. That was good enough for me. It's different. Those guys that want to do that all the time, they can have it. They can have it. I'll be inside. That's fine.
Yeah, no, it's a different dynamic. Like I said, there's a role for everybody on the fire ground. So like I don't get in that whole banter of, oh, you're a truckie or whatever, like you're a pipe man. If the pipemen aren't doing their job, then the fire doesn't go out. If the pipemen need help finding the fire and the truck can get up there and ventilate to help, see for better visibility, things like that, man, I'm all for it. We're all here to do a job. But yeah, like I said, we're not really a true truck, but the way my mind works is, all right, I'm pretty decent at hose pulling, stretching hose because I've been on an engine for 15 years, but I wanted to up my game on the ladder throwing skills, the search skills, the can type skills. So I've started dabbling in that very much so, and man, I'm passionate. Like I tell my new I have two new firemen, like get intimate with those ladders. Like I love getting intimate with that 35 because that 35, a lot of people underestimate it. They think that they can't do what they can do if they just put in the work. So
Hmm. Yeah, and one other thing I was going to talk about with you because I didn't know that you were from New York. Like being a fairly traditionalist when it comes to the fire service and being a fireman, like I more or less idolize like the culture and the traditions of the fire service when it comes to the Northeast, northeastern United States. There's just the culture there, specifically in firefighting. Of course, you got FDNY, but not even that. Like, I've talked to enough people where even the volunteer services up there are like, man, they're squared away. There's some rock solid dudes up there that are strictly volunteers, and I don't want to say that there's a bad rap, but I live in East Texas in a relatively small part of or rural part, I guess, and where there's a lot of volunteer departments around here, and some of them get bad raps for being volunteers, and for one reason or another, but they do. But up there, like you never really hear anything negative about those volunteer companies up there. So I mean, what was your experience like that with on the volunteer side, starting up there in New York?
like I said, I was new, so coming in, man, I just surrounded myself with like what I call the old heads, senior guys before me, and it was like, if you have questions, ask. In a way, back then it was a little different. It was pretty much shut your mouth unless you're
Right, right.
spoken to. But I will say, like, if I had questions, they would answer it. They would take the time to answer it. I would sit back and observe a lot more than I would ask questions. But then, like, if I got to a point where I formed a relationship with one of my volunteers that we became close friends, then I could ask a plethora of questions and get very many answers, the right answers too. But as far as a volunteer, which I've said on my platform before, this is no shade or shot to, I'm in the South, so there's no like it's not like a disrespectful thing, but up north's culture and mentality, it's just different. And if you've never been up there to see it, you won't understand. Like one example would be if a department up north had a truck that went out for mechanical reasons and it was going to be down a while, it's nothing for them to make a phone call to the neighboring department and go, hey, can we borrow your truck for a couple months till we get ours back? And they're like, absolutely. Here, it's kind of like taboo. Like, we don't know. We're not calling for another truck. And it's like, well, if they have a plethora of reserves or a reserve that's not being used, why don't we do? And it just wasn't common down here. So that
Right.
was new to me. I'm like, oh, this is different. And it's just, I don't know. I'm not going to say the brotherhood is not the same as it is up there, but it's a little different.
No, that was gonna be my exact next point because, like I said, I'm fairly traditionalist, and that's one thing that I'm jealous of like the northeastern fire culture is like, and I don't live up there, and it's not like I'm best friends with anyone that lives up there, but so what I'm speaking from is just what it appears like the brotherhood up that way, and like the how they hold to the traditions of the fire service in the Northeast is like something that I'm so jealous of. You know, badass union halls, like bagpipes are throwing parties and get-togethers all the time. Like, man, like that's what gets me going about the fire service. And I feel like, especially the way it looks, is it's a lot more prominent up around that area. And
Mm-hmm.
just like you said, if someone needs something, like they're more than willing to share. And yeah, that probably wouldn't happen in my area either. We wouldn't loan, unless it was a dire situation, and I'm
Right.
sure we'd have to work through legal stuff. Like, we're
Right.
not going to loan a neighboring department a truck because I work full time down the road, but in the town I live in, I volunteer. We're a volunteer house, and we're a large volunteer house, but this is probably one of the more and I hope I don't upset anybody by using this word, but it's one of the more professional volunteer establishments in my area. And that's honestly because 85 to 90% of us are all career guys at somewhere else. We just happen to live here. So it's definitely something that I've always found super interesting. And I know personally one guy that come from up there that was a volunteer, and he lives in the town I live in now. And he goes back often, and he speaks highly of that area. And it's something that I'm just truly jealous of. So getting to pick your brain about it, that's pretty cool, man.
No, no. I mean, it's one thing too, whether you're volunteer, career, part-time, combination, we're all in the same profession. We all see the same things. It's just, it might be on a different scale, or we're talking urban, suburban, rural, but it's the same job. So to me, it doesn't matter if your shirt says volunteer fire department on there, act professional, play the part.
Yeah. Yep. I started off as a volunteer. I know several guys that did, and some of the best firemen I know are to this day still just volunteer firemen. And I don't mean to. I emphasize that to show that's not what I mean, but
Right. Right.
I do like that. So getting started, you moved away from New York City and getting started into your career, and I'm gonna kind of move into the Student of the Game podcast, but I'm just kind of curious, like at the beginning of your career, where you're at now, like were you just as engaged? Was there, and I'm more or less asking about your passion, like. Was there an event that sparked it? What did you cross paths with someone that kind of led you down this road, or how'd that happen?
So I was always like into the job to a sense where like I wanted to learn, but I did notice, and I think it happens to all of us. At some point, you get somewhat complacent.
Mm,
It's not like I treated the job as a joke or anything like that, but when you do this for an extended period of time, you get comfortable. But I hit a point where I wanted to leave the fire service. I started noticing like I was kind of surrounded ish, or there was people around that didn't treat the job the way it should be treated.
mm,
And I've always been passionate, but back then I was very quiet about it, unless like I was talking to an individual or something like that. But I've always had that in me. I've always wanted to bring that what I learned up north down here. I used to be a diehard volunteer. I'm not anymore because the where I live at now, there really isn't a volunteer department. They're all, I think it's a combination career slash part time. So I don't volunteer anymore. But I always looked up to the PG, the DC, the Maryland area,
mhm.
Virginia area, how those departments ran, whether it was career or volunteer. So like I was at a point where I wanted to leave. I wanted to quit. And then I had a buddy of mine who was like, "Hey man, listen to this podcast." And I've heard the word podcast, and I was like, "All right." Never really knew what it was. And then I listened to the episode, and it was an episode where a guy was explaining pretty much the same thing that I was dealing with. And I'm like, okay, so it's not just me. I'm not crazy to think this way. And I just kept listening and listening. And the more I listened, the more it kind of fired me back up. And the message was clear on all the episodes was whether you're out in the bay by yourself or you're doing it together, but it's okay to be out there by yourself. There are things you can do to perfect your skills. So that kind of reinvigorated me to go a little bit harder than I did last time or as I was doing prior past. So what at one point I found, I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but there was something like called a fire conference. And I'm like, what the hell's a fire conference? So I looked it up and showed like classes. And then listening to these podcasts, I kept hearing the same names, and I was like, okay, like this name, somebody they keep talking about this person a lot. So as I was going through this list of this fire conference, they were like, hey, yeah, lecture series and then hot classes. And I'm like, okay. So my wife's like, you should do it. And I'm like, well, you got to pay for it. And she's like, well, just pay for it. It's for your job. So, man, I went the first time I went, Carolina Fire Days. It's in my backyard. Man, it was a wrap. I walked in to a room where you had like-minded individuals, individuals that wanted to be there. You talk to them. It's the same. It's like the same issue at your department, just different people, different name on the shirt, different part of the country. And so, man, that once I sat down in the lecture series and I listened to chiefs, firefighters, captains, battalion chiefs, just like pretty much in a sense, I call it like spreading the good word, like you're in church, like the point where the pastor might be giving a sermon and it's like he's talking about you, but not really, but you feel that
Oh
message.
yeah.
Man, I was done. I was like, yo, this every year I'm going. As long as it's in my backyard, every year I'm going. So I went, I took the hot classes, I came back. My wife was like, yo, something's changed. I'm like, thank you. I give her credit for that. She is the one that was like, just go. And it was the best 3 days of my life that I ever experienced in the fire service. So with that being said, man, like I started like if people didn't want to do something at work, it's like, all right, whatever, no sweat. I'm gonna go out and do it. I just do it. From hose pulls, I have some hose stashed away in a secret location at my station that I was able to acquire, and I do hose stretches. I was able to learn about mask up drills, taping up certain parts for faster reps. I started engaging in that, doing everything with gloves on. That was always the last thing to go in my hands was gloves. And man, it forever changed the way I looked at everything. And so I got home one night and I was like, all right, you know what? There's got to be people out there that felt like me or are going through the same things like I was. And so I was like, I'm gonna look into a podcast. So I looked at the details and all that stuff, and I told my wife, I'm like, I'm gonna do a podcast. And she's like, for real? She's like, you're okay to like talk and people that don't even know you to listen. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm like, I'm just freaking full send. I'm gonna do it. So I just sat down and I thought about what I wanted to do, who I was trying to reach, and it's taken off. It's
Yeah.
taken off awesomely. And I will say this, I'll tell people too, whenever I'm done, I'm done. Like if I run out of numbers or contacts of people to talk to, then my job is done. I think I have fulfilled a sense of a portion of the fire service that can help others out. I'm not in it for monetary gains, popularity. I just want to and just realistically love talking to people that care about the job. And I don't care if nobody knows where you're from, your department name, if they know you at all. If you're positively contributing to the fire service, I want to talk to you. And I can say, man, it's truly been a blessing. The people I've been able to meet, where I've been invited to, the fire service it truly showed that brotherhood.
Yeah, I would say this, and compliments to you and what you have going with the podcast because, I won't say I've listened to every episode, but I've listened to several, and I think what I enjoy the most, just me personally, is exactly what you just said, is listening to someone talk that's from a different part of the country that probably never heard of their fire department before, and realizing that we're all dealing with the same issues that everyone else is. It's just we have a different name on our shirt. Or, you feel the same way about certain situations or something like that. And, I've really enjoyed what you do, and you push out a ton of content, which is awesome. How many episodes are you in now?
Tomorrow, I think tomorrow will be episode 196 or something like that.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. I mean, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I think they say like most podcasts don't make it past like episode 10 or something. Maybe it's 20.
Yeah.
It's something like that, and
Right.
you've pushed it out and reached the masses. I mean, I see people sharing it all the time. So that's just a testament of what you have and what you have going. Out of curiosity, do you remember that original podcast that you listened to that said,
Yes. I
yeah,
will always remember that. It was two. It was two of them. I listened to a couple more now, but the first two that changed the trajectory was Fit to Fight Fire, when it was the trio of John, Craig, and I always forget the other guy's name. Tom.
Tom?
Tom.
Yeah,
When it was those three, and then my second one was Jake Barnes's I'm sorry, Jake Barnes's 3 Point Firefighter.
yeah, yeah. And he's like
Those two.
Jake. Is that he's Florida guy maybe or?
Jake Barnes he was from New Albany, Indiana.
Oh, I
And
was way off.
if I got that wrong, Jake, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure no, Kentucky. Some New Albany, Kentucky. Kentucky.
Okay. I said
Yes.
Florida, so I was way off, more off than you were.
Yeah.
I've listened to both those, and Spare's an awesome dude, and
Yes.
his platform is just super powerful, and I love it so much. And yeah, I've listened to Jake's podcast several times. Those are both outstanding, so I could see how they would have the effect on you that they did. And then, man, I did an episode with Jess Rodzinka, and
Hmm.
he was telling me about the I think it's Carolina Fire Days, like you were just referencing. Man, I
Hmm.
want to get out there. The venue looks awesome. Like I said, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to the traditional side of things, and it just seems like that seems pretty traditional the way they do things out there, and I want to get to it. It seems like a good time. You always
No,
have great instructors.
it's awesome, man. Yeah, this year they got a hell of a lineup. I can't wait. Of course, as soon as tickets went on sale, I had my calendar set and I purchased everything I needed to do. And yeah, man, I truly can't wait.
So I love your mindset about some things because especially when it comes to just training. And we kind of talked briefly beforehand, and just listening to you talk just now is um, and I'm hoping what we can do is just influence others to know that it's okay just to go be by yourself and do your own thing, especially as a new person, because I often come across, new firemen are still trying to get their feet wet, and they're like, man, my crew doesn't train. What do I do? And my answer is always like, there's so much that you can do by yourself, right? And it's just, honestly, it's just having the guts to go and do those things by yourself, And I know you said like it was probably a lot of things all in one to kind of force your hand more or less into doing things by yourself. But if you could just speak into someone's life that's kind of struggling with the thought of, I don't want to go out there by myself and make myself look dumb, getting outside and training by themselves, like I was just curious if you could just speak into that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So if it does take a brave soul to just like, especially when you're new, to go out there and start pulling things off the truck and you don't want to upset people or whatnot. So if you don't want to go that route, you can always find somebody in your department that you can talk to that will have no problem going out and training with you. And maybe on your off day, go meet up with that crew and go do some training with them, or meet up with that person and see if you can go to your local training. If you have a department training site, go out there and get some sets and reps. I don't think any training captain or chief would turn down the opportunity of two individuals or three individuals or however many that are coming off duty to get better at the job. I mean, I don't know very many that would say no. There might be some out there, I don't know, but there's always something you can do. You can find somebody. I'm a huge advocate for sign up for outside training. Go to these classes, learn something outside of your department. But like as far as if you do engage in that role of, hey, I'm gonna go out in the bay. If you have a ladder on your truck, it doesn't matter if you're an engine or a ladder truck, they both have ladders on there. Get the ladder down. Start going over parts. Start throwing the ladder yourself. Get accustomed to that. If you don't want to do that, then another simple, easy thing you can do is do some SCBA mask up drills. See how fast you can get your stuff on. Hose work. If you have spare hose at your station, do that. Search techniques. Just figuring out your, my training chief calls it turnout gear mapping. Like, map your turnout gear the way you want it, where you don't have to think about, hey, where's this at? You just know where it is. There's so many things you can do. You can listen to a podcast. You can watch a podcast. You can watch YouTube and learn different things. Of course, you got to vet these things, but there's so much you can do. And the thing is, a lot of people are like, well, all this person wants to do, or all you want to do is train all day for 24 hours. No, no, not at all. What I like to do is work out for 1 hour, PT for an hour, listen to a podcast or watch something, watch audio tape, watch a fire for an hour, read a book for an hour, and then go out and train for an hour or two. If you can do that within your 24-hour shift, to me, you have fulfilled your duties. You can go above and beyond if you have to, but if you can meet that, what I would say, basic requirement for your shift, man, why not? Like, why not? Like, training doesn't have to be complicated. Training doesn't mean every single time you go out there, you're going to put on your full SCBA, you're going to drain your body, you're going to be tired. No, it can be as simple as putting on a helmet and gloves and go stretch some hose, go throw a ladder. You don't have to have all that on. As I like to say, you ante up your training. Once you get comfortable doing it this way, all right, then put your coat on. All right, you got that? Put your gear on, and then go full out gear mode. So there's always something you can do.
I love that. And I wish that message would continue to be shared because it's a message that affected my life personally. I struggled with, like, if I thought that, or if we didn't go do this like elaborate drill or elaborate, thing, then I didn't train that day. And it was just like and I really don't remember who told me this, and I'm sure it was several people at this point, but like, we just overcomplicate things. It doesn't have to be this elaborate drill. Just like you said, mask up drills, pulling hoses, like, these are all things that you can do yourself to get better at the job. And I know at my station, we run the Minuteman, or at least a modified Minuteman, and so we keep or used to keep a preload or pre-built, shoulder bundle,
Mm-hmm.
so you can go out and do the different types of stretches, and then like the mask up drills, like, you can do that nonstop all day, no big deal there. So I love that though, because like I said, I get approached sometimes and people are kind of curious about that, and it's just like, man, you just got to do it. I
Yeah.
would say that on my personal crew, myself and one other person, when we check off our air packs in the morning, every day we just do a mask up drill. We're not burning any more, air than what we would just normally checking off your air pack. And when I first started doing that, I had to get over that of like, oh, people are going to look at me and like, what are you doing? And I did. I had to step through that, that hurdle. And at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. It's crazy. It's crazy what our mind will tell us that's not true
Mm-hmm.
about doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like to emphasize, like, there is nothing wrong with doing it by yourself, but for me personally, like, I would love to see the fire service take someone with them, if they're willing. I'm not going to waste my time, but
Exactly.
if they're willing, like, I would love to see people take someone. It doesn't matter your rank or tenure. Like, you could be the newest fireman on your crew, but if you do something that intrigues a driver and they're like, hey, show me that again, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what gets me fired up, because I believe that's how we should all be, just continual growth, and in your words, be a student of the game, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely, the fire service is not a one man or woman show. It's a team sport. But as I've said before, you have some people that are engaged and some that they're just there to be there. They don't want to do anything above and beyond, and that's fine. I'm gonna go out and do me. What sort of reputation or whatever you want to call whatever target gets formed on me, like, at this point, I don't care. I really don't. Doing this podcast I wanted to, that was going to be like, hey, all eyes are going to be on you to see like what goes down, the message you're trying to spread. And if you go to my department and ask people about me from the get-go, it's not like, oh yeah, he's a poser, he's never been like this. I was very quiet, but like, once I got over the fact of caring what people think, like, I could give like two shits less now. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna do what I have to do, I'm gonna do me. And my mindset is, if you're one of those ones where you aren't trying to perfect your skills, when we have our quarterly training sessions, I want, and I've said this before, I'm not trying to boast or brag, but if you have an individual that's looking at this fire service world as a joke or a game, my game is going to be I want to outperform you. I want to outwork you. I want to make you look bad.
Mm.
And it's not like I'm gonna be like all up in your face, but I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna be watching as you struggle or as you're tired or you complain about the way this air pack feels or I'm getting hot or whatever the case. Those are all excuses. Those are all excuses. And so I'm always watching. I am a quiet person at work, but I'm always watching to see what people do. So
Yeah, I love the fact, and once again, I'm not trying to be conceited or anything like that because there's several things that I'm not great at, but that I'm actually working at those things. I like to see in training, which is why one reason I'm a big fan of training is I don't even think it's a theory at this point. I think as firemen, we think we are way better at things than we actually are. And training and doing the actual skill exposes us, myself included, you included. Like, there are things right now that I think I'm pretty squared away with, and if I went to the drill field right now, I'd probably be exposed. But that's our job to find those areas of weakness and improve those things. And that's what we should all be striving to do, instead of not doing that. Because I think at the end of the day, like, I don't ever want to see anybody fail, but I would love to see, especially in an uncontrolled environment like on the
mhm,
fire ground. But I would love to see people fail in training a lot more often to show
absolutely.
people what they don't know, or show people what they're not good at. So I was going to ask you. So I want to kind of circle back just a little bit about the conferences. Um, you said the first conference you went to was Carolina. Was it Fire Days? Is that what it's
Carolina
called?
Fire Days. This would be my third consecutive year going next in November.
November. Okay.
I went to a Bears of the Oath for the Jamichael Muller. They did a benefit up in Tennessee. I went to that, thoroughly enjoyed that. That's where I met Shane Bentley and the Bears of the Oath cadre. Exposed to a lot of good dudes, met a lot of good people, learned a lot of good things. One of the key takeaways from that um, uh, fire conference I went to is I had a training scar with the entanglement box. Um, Growing up, they would throw us in there and they'd tell you, no flashlight, your flashlight doesn't work. You can't do this, you can't do that. And it was just like you're thrown into the wolves. So, like, there was a portion where he was like, hey, you're going to have to go through this box. And, like, I looked at that box and all those feelings came back. All those memories came back of just going in there, like, shut up, do your job, turn the light off, blah, blah, blah. So I pulled the instructor a little bit to the side and I was like, hey, like, I have an issue with this. And he's like, well, if you don't mind, explain to me. And when I did, the first thing he said to me, which I'll never forget, was, I apologize for that. Like, he had no control over that. He's like, but I apologize that that's how you were taught to
Mm.
go through this. And so he's like, do what works for you in this thing. And one of the things I have to do, not really I have to do, but it makes me feel more comfortable. If I'm going through an entanglement box where I have to go through the wires and stuff, I like to take my helmet off. Because when I first introduced into that, like the eagle would get caught and man, it was just it was bad. It was
Mm.
bad. And so he was like, if you need to take it off, take it off. He's like, take it off and shove it through. Let that be the first thing out, and then you go through. And then he kind of taught me a technique, and he taught me how to hide under. And so I did it the first time, and I was like, okay. And he's like, let's do it again. And we did it again, and we did it a couple times. And he's like, this is how you do things. And I'm like, this is right. Instead of, we train people where we like tell them that they can't use tools that they have. And it's like, if I have a flashlight that's perfectly working, why can't I use it? Well, the battery just died. Like, come on. Like, those are just terrible training scars that some people can, have in their subconscious. So I always, through going through these conferences and taking these classes, I've learned to crawl, walk, run.
Mm.
Explain to these individuals what they're going to do, show them, and then have them go through it maybe with just plain clothes. And then you add PPE, and then you add an air pack, then you put them on air. That's how you do it. Some people are going to get it right away, but we have individuals here that they could have been scarred, or they might have a fear of like I don't really like being in tight spaces. All right, well, cool. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think what I enjoy the most about conferences is really like you don't really know those training scars until you get out there
Yep.
and you have the more squared away instructors that can tell you like, hey, like I get that this way, like just like you explained. I don't have to re-explain that. Them telling you and recognizing that's the way you've been taught. But this is appropriate here, so I do enjoy that. So I like to go to conferences. I've traveled outside the state now for them. Obviously, Texas is a pretty big state. We're pretty conference heavy. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
local training, but there's some specific ones out there. I checked off firemanship off my bucket list.
Oh yeah, me and my buddy want to do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, yeah.
that was an awesome experience, and I would recommend anyone to go to that one. It was amazing, and just everything. Not even from the socials to the actual lectures, like, and it was unexplainable. It was awesome. But the Carolina Fire Days is one I want to get to. I think that one, it seems awesome. It looks like the venue's great. Like I would love to get out there. Um, so something that's cool that kind of hit my mind is you're an 18-year fireman, so you've been doing this for a little bit now, and you are obviously still very engaged and still very focused, and obviously you have to. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty systematic person. I'm a big John Maxwell fan, and he talks about having a plan for growth, because the whole saying like if you don't have a plan, then you plan to fail. And I'm just curious, like 18 years in, still plugged in, still a very passionate fireman. Do you have, and I know you kind of maybe hinted at those things a little bit, but do you have a specific things that you do maybe each day, quarter, weekly, monthly to help you grow in your career or personally that helps you in your career?
One of the things to me that's very important is physical fitness. So I'll be turning 40 this year. And the fire service is a young man and women's game, man. I mean, I'm telling you, if you don't stay on your physical fitness, if you don't stay on your health, watching what you eat to an extent, I'm not trying to say like you need to clean eat, but be mindful and moderate of what you eat. But this job, it's tough. Emergencies don't wait for the nice cool days, sunshine and all that. Like they're going to happen at all times of the day, night, year, whatever. So physical fitness is an important key for me. And one of the game changers was working out in gear. I started hearing that. So there's a good number of guys I want to emulate. And while I might not emulate them to the T, I try to take their mindset and make it my own. So one thing I like to do, man, I'm always going to try to get a gear workout in. And normally, if I'm at home, my gear workouts are a little bit more strenuous than when I'm on shift. Now, when I'm on shift and I do them, I I do it enough where I still have gas left in the tank for the rest of the shift. I don't overdo it. I don't go crazy. But when I'm at home, I can push it a little bit further because I'm home, so I can chill out for the rest of the day or whatnot. But physical fitness is a must that I have to get in. I ha- I'll do some sort of training for sure. If it's a Saturday or Sunday, and it's like everyone needs their off days. Sundays are cool. Sundays are kind of like the Lord's rest day. If you believe in that kind of thing. So Sundays, if people want to kind of just do the basics, make sure your rigs and your stations squared away, and you just kind of want to prep yourself for football, man, I'm human too. Like that's all good. Like I have no issue with that. Or you want to catch up on some shows or whatever the case. Like I have a plethora of shows I watch. So like Sundays are usually a good day to get that in or whatnot. But I mean, there's just so much you can do. There really is. So like the way my day to day would be. So tomorrow I go into work. I'm actually on what I call timeout. I have to go drive the other ladder truck for 24 hours. So I got to kind of see what that crew's going to do. But if I was on my crew, you come in, you find out what you're doing for the day, get your stuff on the rig. I usually like to PT first thing in the morning. When I get done, I eat some breakfast, and then I do my station chores and duties. Find out what we're doing for the day. If there's really nothing planned, then I'll just like think of, all right, well, what kind of training do I want to do with these new guys? And I'll ask them, hey, is there anything you want to do? And they're usually like, hey, we're good with whatever you want to do. So we'll go out there, and I primarily try to focus with them on making sure that, the basics. They can pull a hand line. They understand why we load it this way. They understand different methods of deployment. And then if we hit the engine side, then I'll be like, all right, well, we're a ladder company. Let's do some ladder work. Do you guys have any issues with ladders? So on our truck, we don't have a 24. We got a 28. Not really that much of a weight difference. There's a little difference there, but to me, I'm a firm believer. You should be able to know how to throw a 28 yourself. We have a 16 foot and then we have a 20 foot. The 20 foot gets underestimated because people think, oh, it's just an extra 4 foot. Yeah, that extra 4 foot, if you're not ready for it, it can mess you up pretty bad. And then we got 235s. And I'm a firm believer. I also told them I think you should be able to throw a 35 yourself, not shoulder throw it, but get it up on your own. And my mindset towards that is, yeah, okay, you have a partner, but you might not have a partner on the fire ground when you need it. So you can't, like, to me, it's a bad default if you're always relying on doing something with a partner. Learn to do it yourself. So I'm working with that currently now with my two new firefighters I have on, throwing that 35. I posted a video the other day of Shelby and Colin. Colin was butting the heel and Shelby threw it up beam style. And I'm like, you can do it. If you all it is, you got to tell your mind that you can do it. That's the biggest challenge in the fire service is getting over that, that mind fuck or that mind hurdle of I can't do it. I remember when the 2.5 was introduced and people were like, you're going to push it and move it by yourself. People were like, there's no way it's a 2.5. It can be done. There's a technique for it. Once you master that technique and you get used to it, man, the sky's the limit.
I like that mindset of just having to, more or less speak it into existence and telling yourself that you can do it. Because there are things that, even myself and I'm sure yourself, like sometimes we might think of things and I kind of catch myself a lot of times like, oh, I don't know about that. And it's just like, no, like, okay, we can make this happen. We do the same thing as far as ladders. We carry 16, 28s, and 35s. We don't have a 20 foot, but I could imagine if it's just 20 straight feet, it's going to be hard for me. I'm short, so I'm going to have to think of a way to get it done.
And that's the thing, like Shelby is short. And so it's like you just have to figure out your body mechanics and figure out a way to get up there. And I always like to say this, there's not one way to do something in the fire service.
Right.
There's a way. Find what your A way is. I told her, I said, if you got to slide that thing across someone's backyard and then use the building to throw it up, as long as it gets done, who cares? Like, we need to get away of this mindset of, well, it needs to be done this way, especially when we have instructors or senior men and women that are showing something. Show them your way, but they have to ultimately figure it out for themselves.
Yeah.
And if it gets done, it gets done.
I love like getting with those new guys, right, and being able to mentor them a little bit and be able to explain something. Maybe I'm not going to say better, but maybe just be in a more intimate conversation than what they got in like rookie school or whatever, and seeing that light bulb flip on for them and just being like, okay, like, nah, this ain't that bad at all, or they understand something a little bit better. And the mentorship side of things, like I'm fairly passionate about and love the thought of just taking someone underneath your wing and watching them grow and just being their resource for them. A lot of the good firemen that I know and a lot of the great firemen I know, they all have had those pivotal people in their life, whether they came in early in their career or late. Do you have mentors? And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, how they helped you? I mean, I just like to ask this question because I want people to understand the importance of having a mentor.
I have very many mentors, and some of them may know that, some of them may not. So that's the thing, because like I look at people I want to emulate. So like when it comes to the physical fitness side, I look at people like Marcos, Eric Vidal, Riley Kilbride, Logan, Broberg. I was actually fortunate to meet Logan, and like we talked, and yeah, I might not do everything that they do, but the way my mind works is you have to be able to do the hard shit. Like this, you in this job, you can't tell people like I'm tired or oh, this is too tough and quit, because that could be the difference of you going home, you're fellow brother or sister going home, or you letting down that citizen. And I don't know about others, but if I knew that I could do something better and I didn't, man, I got to live with that. And there are firemen that will hide behind and be like, oh, that doesn't bother me. But you will go home and you have to live with that decision. So
Mm.
that's the way I've always knew the fire service as being a serious job. But as you get older, man, little things start clicking and I start realizing more and more how important this job really is. Like, the life and death, what's in our hands, controlling what we can control. And if we can help ourselves with just being better fitness type firefighters, training more, getting used to that heat acclimation, wearing that gear. A lot of guys are like, oh, why is he, it's 95 degrees out. Why are you wearing gear? That's dumb. You got to save some for later. And it's like, that's all a mindset. If you can get your mind, like me, I've actually got my mind to understand, okay, this is why Marcos does this. This is why all those guys are doing this, because the gear is the almighty equalizer. It really is. I've heard that before, and it makes sense when you're actually doing a gear workout and you want to just unzip it to get that heat trap that's stuck right here out. It is a complete game changer when you can understand how important your gear is, how it works, but how if you just learn to suffer a little bit and not go to the extreme lengths of like Marcos and Logan and Eric, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you can just every day, little by little, up that percentage, 1% to 2% to 3, you know what I mean? And so
Mm.
forth. Like, you can actually, when it's time to actually put that gear on, it doesn't bother you now. You're just like, oh, it's just gear.
Mm.
Like, like, yeah, I'm not trying to downgrade that. There are some calls and training that's going to be hard, but if you can get past that, if you could tell your mind, like, I pretty much tell my mind, like, shut the fuck up, like, just do it, do the work, and you'll see what the rewards are.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of do the same thing, and it was not necessarily foreign, but I just never really did the whole gear workout thing. And then I saw it kind of picking up popularity and getting more curious. And I've talked to Marcos and I've talked to Logan, and one thing that we've kind of talked about a little bit. One thing I had to get over is like they say comparison is the thief of joy, and I would sit there and do a workout in gear, and then like go look at what Logan's doing, and that dude's a monster. And I would just be like, why am I even trying this? You know what I mean? Like that was a mental hurdle that I had to get over when it came to training in gear. And you're right, man. Like feeling the heat and getting acclimated. And I like to think that at my department we wear our gear a little bit, more often than some. And it still makes a complete and total difference because you're able to embrace that suffering. And I get what you mean, like not to downplay it, but whenever you constantly are in your gear and you're constantly building up that heat within you, you can be standing there dressed while everyone else is having to derobe and just embrace it a little bit more because you know what you got left in the tank because you put yourself there. And I really respect that part of the gear training for me.
Absolutely.
I
No,
don't
that's
do it as much as I should, but I still try to get one, in a lot, and I see a lot of value in it, and I respect the shit out of the guys that do it because there's some of those workouts that call for pant and coat, and I'm like, I don't know that I could just do that slick, but
mhm.
it's still very, very important. I
No,
love it.
it truly is, man. It really is. And what's crazy is, and let's just take out, the working out in gear. Let's just go back to just training, right? You don't know how many times I'll be in a room and I'll hear a dad talking either to or talking about their daughter or son's performance. And they're like, I tell them the only way to get better is they got to train, they got to train. But it's like you're telling your kids that, but your mindset on training is you hate doing it. You don't want to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
like you know what I mean? Like you're kind of being a hypocrite when it comes to that, because if you're trying to explain to them the only way to get better in volleyball, baseball, whatever sport that they're in is to train, it's the same thing for the fire service.
Yeah.
And you get guys that get tired of, oh, how many times are we going to pull a hose line? Like, I know how to pull it. Okay, it's the basics, bread and butter. Do
Mm.
it with your eye. You should be able to perform it until you can do it with your eyes closed.
Yep. Yeah. I love that you just said that because I had this conversation with one of my good friends the other day, and he's got his son's probably 6 or 7, and he was talking about him playing baseball, and he's like, man, he's just gotten so much better since in just a few months, and it's like talk about why, what he's been doing with his son. And I'm like, okay, like this is going to come as a surprise to you because this guy's big into training and big into reps. It's like when you're, I'm going to kind of put this in terms of baseball. It's just like whenever your kids are that young, like truly the difference maker is nothing more than reps. They haven't learned anything profound. They haven't done anything. It's just the fact that they're more comfortable doing those skills,
Yep.
and they've gotten more reps in it than the other people. And it's the same thing in the fire service. We can, pull hose till nauseum, and we go up against someone, not go up against, but if we're pulling hose, it's going to look a lot better than someone that doesn't. I'm really big about the basics and try to stay on top of those things. And I love what Aaron Field said. And I'm sure he quoted someone else, but I heard him say it. He said that the difference between professionals and amateurs is the fact that professionals can train through boredom. They have the ability to train through boredom. And because we all know if you've pulled the hose 10 times, it's like, all right, I kind of got this, but you don't have it. Like you need to continue on and continue practicing and continue pulling that hose. So I love that part. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You can't go wrong with and everything I do. It's basic work. I'm not a big complex guy, so the basics always win. They always work. From stretching hose to throwing ladders to perfecting down your search techniques. That's it's the basics or the basis of the fire service. Then you can do like ventilation and things like that, but you can never go wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I agree. I got one more thing I kind of want to hit on a little bit and just pick your brain on it. You've been in the fire service for 18 years. You're a senior firefighter, so you said you drive a bit. Do you ever want to promote?
So yeah, it's funny you say that. I am currently in the process of studying for they reclassified it. It was the engineer's position, but when our captains are off, the engineer slides over and they have to, be the acting officer. So they reclassified it to lieutenant. So I'm currently studying. I have gotten all my books that I've ordered. I'm currently studying now for our lieutenant's exam. We have a station that's in the works. Whenever they break ground on it, it'll be what it'll be. But I, uh, I can no longer sit in the back anymore. Like I have watched, and if people hear this, they might be like, "Well, who's this?" I'm just going to be real about it. I'm tired of watching people that are promoting that don't give a fuck about the job. They're steering wheel holders is what I call them.
Yeah.
They don't position, they park, they bitch, they don't clean the truck right, they do the bare minimum, and I'm tired of sitting in the back watching. I always thought I'd be good riding backwards and to a point, but now I'm at a point where it's like, all right, I gotta do something. So
Yeah.
I am my true passion. I love driving. I think drivers across the fire service are undervalued. I think is when everything goes right, no one ever looks at the driver, but the driver, man, he's got to know how to get there. He's got to be able to position the apparatus. Pumping, if you're a first due pump operator on a fire, the first 5-10 minutes of that fire, man, you got stuff you got to get done. And if everything goes right, it's all high fives, selfies, posting videos. But if something goes bad, if you couldn't get water to that charge line, you couldn't establish a water supply, you have to crew your pulls out. That's when everybody's going to start looking at you. Or you make the wrong turn and instead of first due, you're now third. Like there is an art to driving.
Yeah.
There truly is. It's a very important role, and I love the whole aspect of it. I'm not a fan that I have to ride the seat, but it is what it is. I'll do what I have to do. So yeah, as of right now, I'm preparing for the next step.
And you answered what was going to be my next question, which was like, what changed your mind and made you, decide that you wanted to promote? Because I know that the fire service is getting younger, and through people really just getting out of the fire service altogether, or even these newer, where we once had just volunteer companies that they're just becoming career departments now. It's just naturally becoming younger, and so naturally we have people promoting into younger and less experienced, and it's just like I have a personal opinion on it, and it's just like I have to be able to define really what I define success at my current role, and to be able to say that I'm ready, and really when I want to. I think that's what it comes down to, because I know it's unrealistic for me and my department and my family. Like, it's unrealistic for me to stay a firefighter, but I do lean towards just wanting to stay in that back seat. But I know at some point, because I can kind of, just based off talking to you, I could kind of tell our mindsets are the same, that I would be in the exact same boat. Just like, I mean, I'm tired of seeing this and people
Yeah.
that don't care about the job, that don't take it
Nope.
seriously.
Nope.
I hate the saying, I hate the when you hear people say, man, I'm just not that into it. I'm like, I have no clue what that means. Like, can you explain to me what that means? Because I'm going to make you sound stupid when you try to explain that you're not that into a job that ultimately controls my life, your life. It bugs me. That's one thing so that was a little bit of a rant there. I apologize.
No,
But
no, I mean, it makes sense, man. Like I'm to the point now where I'm tired that we keep promoting individuals that just because, and granted, it's my fault. And I say that because it's my fault because I didn't take the test. So I wasn't their competition. But when you talk to these individuals who are like, oh, I only did it because it's more money, or,
oh,
or yeah, I took it. I didn't think I was really going to get it and I got it. And they treat it like a joke. And like you said, like, it's not just their life that's in their hands. Like, to me, hey, if you don't care about making it home to your family, then that's on you. But fuck that. I'm trying to go home at the end of the day to
yeah.
see my wife and daughter. So, if that's your mentality, cool. I mean, whatever happens, happens. But I'm going to try my damnedest to make it home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I'm to the point where I'm tired of it, and so I'm gonna make that leap. I'm putting in the work. I'm hitting the books. I'm not a great test taker. I hate taking tests, but at some point I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, well, good for you, brother. That's awesome. I was gonna say one more thing. You were talking about the driver's position, and I've always
Hmm.
told myself that, and it sounds like our driver's position is kind of the same. Like, it wouldn't be a lieutenant, but when the company officer's off, that driver does typically step into that company officer role. And I've always told myself that I would spend the littlest amount of time in my career as a driver. It just doesn't seem like it's for me. But I've heard someone trying to explain to me the value of a driver, and they referenced a quarterback in football. They're not the offensive coordinator. They're not making the calls, but they control the keys to everything going right in the or on the fire ground. Where they park at, or where they position the apparatus at. Do they pull past the house to give the truck the front? If that's your culture. Did they check off their truck appropriately and make sure hoses were loaded correctly and not just leave it up to the firemen? All of these things. Did they get the water supply? They just compared that to the role of a quarterback in football. Like, if he turns the wrong way and fumbles the ball, if he doesn't throw the ball in time, he's getting sacked. Like, that was a perfect comparison that I needed to really see the importance of what that position is.
No, definitely, man. I mean, like I said, I can go on about how, like, I truly people that know me will be like, I truly love the driving role. I love it
Yeah.
all. There's nothing. I mean, it's nothing better than being behind the wheel of an engine or a ladder or a heavy rescue or a tiller, whatever, going down the road, trying to get to the scene quick to mitigate an emergency. We get to do cool shit. We get to drive on the opposite side of the road sometimes, stop traffic, cut in and out. You got to be able to know these things. And it's not like it happens off the fly. Like, you need to, I'm a firm believer, you need to learn your steps before you get there.
Yeah.
We have individuals coming in that all they want to do is drive. I'm not a fan of just teaching people. I call them lever pullers. You got to be able to know the sounds of the truck. You should be able to look, you should be able to know when your truck's in pump gear without having to look for that green okay to pump sign. Like, it's a lost art that in some places is not being taught anymore. It's, hey, we're going to show you, set it and forget it, this, that, and the other. We're not teaching people the ins and outs and there's still a bunch of stuff I'd love to learn.
Mm.
I wish, and I'm going to throw this out there for these conferences, I really wish that there could be more opportunity for a driver, like some sort of driver class where you can learn the ins and outs of your apparatus, if shit goes bad, what to do. Because I mean, I could tell you from my department, and this is not I'm not throwing shots at my department because I'm sure I'm not the only one. We get a new truck. All right, Pierce is going to come this day. You're going to be in a class for 8 hours. They're going to go over this, that, and the other. And then once that's done, that's it. If you
Yep.
have any other problems, hey, reference your manual, or we're going to take it to the mechanic, or we're going to take it to the dealer's reputable whatever to get it fixed. Like we don't teach people the ins and outs of things anymore, and that's such a lost art.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. We have the same issues, so I can relate to that point. I think the driver's position, I see the value in it, and this is just me speaking personally. I see the value in it, and the parts of driving that I do enjoy when I get to step into that role is responding to the calls, and maybe the first 5 minutes of a fire scene, and then I'm jealous the rest of the time. It's like I want to be doing that stuff. But I couldn't agree more with what you said about like not just being a lever puller, because the best drivers I know can tell you not only what their job is, but they could tell you what their company officer's job is and what they're thinking and things like that, but also what the fireman's job is and what the fireman should be thinking. So they should be the all-encompassing guy. Like they're the guy for that spot. And that's where I see the value in it. So I'm not throwing shade at people that want to be a driver. I just don't think that that's going to be where I stay at for very long. So
No, that's fine. And like I said, everybody has different passions of the job.
right,
Driving is one of mine. But don't get me wrong, I love the firefighting aspect of it too.
yeah,
But it's an underappreciated role in the fire service. It
right,
really is.
right.
It truly is.
No, I agree. I agree. So kind of getting back into this one more time, I'm just curious, the Student of the Game podcast, like I said, we've already kind of talked about it a little bit. And I know you've said that when you're done, you're done. I would just like to know, where would you like to see it? Where would you like to see it go? What do you want it to grow to?
I mean, I think so like I don't really look at the analytics side. I really probably should look at my analytics to see where I'm at, but I don't. I just kind of go off of feedback on social media. Not too long ago, there was somebody posted. I can't remember who it was on a forum that a lot of people follow. What are some favorite podcasts to listen to, man? And like lo and behold, a good number of people were like Student of the Game Fire podcast. So I felt like, okay, what I'm doing is actually helping somebody. I mean, my wife will say it. She's like, this isn't really bringing us any money. Where you're actually, because I have to have a Zoom account. I have to pay for my license fee with RSS to get my stuff out. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but I have some skin in the game.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm working on a couple things that until it happens, I will keep it like hush hush. But I I just love being able to talk to like people like you. And the thing is, it's individuals who could be in your backyard that you don't know, and you're like, oh shit, that department's just up the road. Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's get with this department and let's do some things. It's just letting people know you don't have to be a big name person to be on a podcast.
Agreed.
And that's my spin on it. Like I'm not looking for, yeah, I was able to get Chief David Rhodes. That was a shot in the freaking dark. And when he was like, yeah, sure, what do you need? I'm like, for real? And then so it was just like, all right, I'm gonna try Chief Scott Thompson. And my message to him, and he'll tell you, it was like, so this is gonna be a shot in the dark, is how my DM message started. And then I explained what I was doing, and he replied back within an hour, like, yeah, what do you need? And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, so you don't know, and this not only does this apply to fire service, this applies to life in general, man. If you want something, go out there and try to get it. You don't know if you're going to get it if you don't try. Now, the same thing I'll teach my daughter. Sometimes you'll go for something and you don't get it. Doesn't mean like you stop trying. You just keep going.
Mm.
And I've met so many what I would call like the big name people that are so down to earth that you can easily talk to them. But then I've also met the ones that completely ignore you too. And they are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. But the whole emphasis on my podcast is there are people who are doing great things in the fire service that you have no idea or don't know about. And it's just because they're not getting that limelight.
Yeah.
All they need is one little avenue. And then maybe that message, somebody else that's bigger than me can hear it and can help propel their trajectory of their fire career. I'm not looking for any, like I said, any sort of fame or no notoriety. I just want to be known as a dude. Yeah, he was a good fireman and he talked to a lot of good dudes and he's doing positive things. Like the fire service has given me so much. I've seen what the fire service can do to families, to people that are bad, but I've also seen the good that we can do if we just apply ourselves.
I'm almost speechless because I love it, and the one word that came to my mind while you're talking is just like the authenticity that you have with that. And I think we've been friends on Facebook for a while, like I said, and I've followed Student of the Game for quite some time at this point, and everything that you said aligns with what I have seen on Facebook. I don't, with the exception of you posting gear workouts, which it's not like, hey, look at me gear workouts. Like, I've never seen you post about yourself. It's never been about you or promoting a personal agenda or anything like that. And that's so important because, there's a million, mine included, fire podcast and websites and, social media pages, and a lot of times it is for the clout and the recognition of themselves instead of for the betterment of the fire service. And each one I think serves its role, each different page, and they all kind of fit in with each other. But the fact that I think the majority of ones, or the ones that are most important, are the ones that are doing something to propel the fire service forward, instead of like I said, promoting themselves. So I do enjoy that.
Absolutely, man. And if you ask, the only thing I'm trying to promote positivity. I'm trying to promote people to understand it's okay to love the job, the seriousness of the job, and the fact that it's okay to fail. Like, I sometimes will post videos of me failing, but I do it to show that we're all human. We want to fail on the training ground, so when we get on the fire ground, it's a different story. And the only way to get to be that way. The only way my analogy is the only way to be Tom Brady of the fire service, you got to put in the reps.
Yeah.
Okay, you pulled that cross lay 50 times. Okay, do it again. Do it again. Throw that ladder. Do that search. Fail. Learn from your failure. Try to surround yourself. And that's what I do with all my friends on Facebook. Like, we've never met personally,
Right.
but I try to surround myself with people who, if I am feeling down today and I scroll through and I see Marcos post his normal workout post, or my buddy Jeremy Gilbert posts his, it's like, all right, get up, go out and do it. Even if it's 30 minutes, doesn't have to be an hour, 2 hour grind session. Just get 30 minutes in your gear, because that's usually the equivalent to how long you're going to work on the fire service, depending on your location and if you're rural, urban, suburban, stuff like that. But that's usually going to be the time frame that you're working. So get acclimated to it. Just go out there and get better 1% every day.
Love it, brother. Love it. Okay, I'm going to kind of shut things down here, Danny. Just stand by for 1 second. If real quick though, before I do, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, how can they do that? How can they reach out? And then where can they find the podcast at, man?
So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is NEG_MARRON85. That's French for brown guy 85. I like to call myself the brown guy. I am a Haitian American, so the culture is French derivative. Find me on Facebook, Danny Beauvais. That's how you say my last name. It's okay if you butcher it. Student of the Game Fire Podcast at gmail.com. And that's usually if you know anybody that needs to be heard, that is trying to positively contribute to the fire service. And then I'm on Apple and Spotify every Monday and Thursday. For right now, I'm just trying to push out what I have remaining left. I have a next round of list. I'll figure out where I'm not having people wait so long to hear it. I truly apologize for that, but that's also a blessing that I have that. I'm that backed up. But other than that, man, I'm just a normal guy. I don't proclaim to be a super giant fireman. I just want to get good at the job and promote that it's okay to love it.
Man, I thank you again. I really have enjoyed this. It's been awesome, guys. Once again, if you haven't or don't already, make sure you go follow Student of the Game Fire Podcast. Like Danny just said, it's on Apple, it's on Spotify. Friend him on Facebook because there's a lot of good stuff coming through there, and you're pushing out content, which is awesome. And once again, if you're not following Firefighter Nation on Instagram, Facebook, make sure you guys do that to stay up to date with all of our content, all of the upcoming episodes. Just like I said on the last one, we got a couple with Preston and myself. Upcoming guests we had was Chief Rhodes, and then we have Jesse and Micah Horton and Josh Burchick. All those episodes should be released here pretty soon. They're all, in my opinion, good just because I'm a nerd and like listening to that kind of stuff. So make sure you're following them, make sure you like them and share it. Coming October 1st, with a time to be determined, I'll make sure I try to put it out. Myself and Preston are going to go live on the Firefighter Nation platform. So we're going to do a live episode to kind of kick things off. So make sure you guys try to tune in for that. Other than that, man, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Danny. Appreciate you coming on the show. I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and I love to see and know where it's going.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. Hopefully I could give a little insight to people that want to know my story, and just keep spreading that message of just keep going, even if it's you by yourself. Just keep doing what you got to do.
Love it, dude.